Yeah, ready.
Okay. Hello and welcome. We're live here from COP28 in Dubai. My name is Nareem Barkil and I'm the director of Africa Worldwide. Very happy to be participating in the Al-Attiyah Foundation's first of a series of panels we're doing here from COP28 in Dubai to try and delve into the key issues being discussed here at this global event. Business leaders, world leaders, and those extra climate voices from around the world here trying to discuss and chart a way forward for how we can help fight climate change and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. To try and do that, we're joined by an expert panel today focusing on energy scenarios for a net zero world. The Al-Attiyah Foundation, of course, our viewers watching from around the world know the foundation as a prominent think tank based in Qatar. It's taking part again here at COP after its participation in recent years in Glasgow and Sharm el-Sheikh, now here in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. The foundation, of course, founded by His Excellency Abdullah bin Attiyah, the former Minister of Energy of the state of Qatar. Now, as mentioned, we do have an interesting panel to kick things off here, and three brilliant guests joining me as well. First, we have Laurie Haytayan, the MENA Director at the Natural Resource Governance Institute. She specializes on the region and how countries who are resource rich, plenty of them in this region, are grappling with issues moving towards a more sustainable future. We also have Aisha Al-Sarihi, who is a resident fellow at the Middle East Council on Global Affairs, part of the National University of Singapore's Middle East Institute as well. She's an associate fellow of the Middle East and North Africa program at Chatham House and a non-resident fellow at the Arab Gulf States Institute in Washington. Aisha's areas of research include political economy, environmental sustainability, energy, and policies around energy as well. And then last and by no means least, we have Ehab Shalabi, the CEO of Dean Global, senior consultant, researcher, and lecturer in the field of economics and sustainable development. I'm going to take my place next to the three of you as we start this discussion. Let's start then, first of all. Um, we're sitting here in Dubai, COP28, a big event, some controversy around it, plenty of expectations. Let's start with that key target then, 1.5 degrees Celsius. Do you think that that's still really realistic, actually?
Oh, thank you very much for having me today. So a short answer to your question, we are off track for achieving the 1.5 degrees Celsius. But the opportunity is there to keep it within reach. I'm saying that because earlier this year, three reports has been released: the IPCC assessment report, the protection gap report, and also the UN synthesis report in the global stock technical dialogue. All these reports suggest that the global warming has already reached 1.1 degrees Celsius compared to pre-industrial levels. And we are on track with the current global climate pledges to hit 2.4 to 2.6 degrees Celsius by the end of the century. So that said, also if we look at the current energy mix, the coal, the oil and gas still account for 80% of our today energy supply and consumption. And for us to reach the net zero goal by 2050, we need to increase the share of renewable energy from current today of 30% energy mix to 60% in 2030, and we need to make it increase to 90% in 2050. And also we need also to scale up other clean energy technologies like the hydrogen, which needs to increase 6 times compared to today's levels. Also, we need to scale up the carbon capture and storage technologies. And also speaking about finance, currently we are around, if the climate finance is around 100 billion US dollars. And for us to hit net zero target by 2050, we need to increase that to 4 trillion by 2030, and then also to triple it again by 2050. So it's a long way, but with the right political will, I think, because we have the technology, I think we can hit that.
Just to continue, so we have this need to triple pledge trying to be immediate tripling renewable energy now 2030 an ambitious target. The technology many think are there, but the disbursement of that technology is really equal if you look at where countries in Africa, for example, Singapore, even energy being there. What's key for governments to try and sustain it?
Everyone understands that climate change is a reality, and it's not just like a report that is somewhere that is of interest to science. And every government, responsible government, is thinking about the future of their people. And this is the drive that there's. So then you come to the technologies, who has the technologies, who is able to provide the technology. What we are seeing, and like sitting in Block 28, this is like where like solidarity comes in, and this international cooperation that is important, that comes in, and that's why we must pledges that we made. Why resourceful countries that have the financial capabilities and that have deep technologies that are coming together to help the vulnerable societies in getting all together to this point where we can be safe, and to get to that 1.5 degree, etc. So the path is clear, and everyone is trying to do its best according to their capacities and according to their definitely as well responsibility in getting us there. They're doing their best. I think it's clear, but it might take a bit of time in each country or in each region to do that. That's why we always talk about energy transitions in regions and agencies, and it's not like one guy is going to one way to increase in all. For instance, when we come to the region, our region, you have like countries that Saudi Arabia, they do have like financial capacities and institutional capacities that are not the same, for instance, let's say in Iran. So these are the same resource-rich countries, but with different capacities, and therefore they would have a different way of dealing with energy transition and reaching to the point even in renewables or in low emissions of their oil and gas. And maybe like even this phase down or phase out, it will have a different time. So that is important to understand. And this is why we keep on pushing in at least in the region we like. In our region, we're not all the same, and that is important to understand. But it is important to understand that if we do nothing, our societies would be at danger, and responsible governments need to take action to make better living for their people.
Just to continue, we have there about the importance of cooperation. That's something that has been on the agenda here in the early few days of COP28. We've seen lots of money being thrown. The UK announcing 2 billion, the loss and damage fund 100 million announced by this UAE. It's risen to more than 400 million. It's usual and popular to say, here's the money, and opposite that money doesn't actually come. Do you feel that we're at a turning point, especially given your focus on finance? You really expect these countries to stand up to their pledges this time? Fails many times.
Thank you so much for raising the question. First of all, I'd like to congratulate of these big events. It comes, I think, these big events comes for the first time in an Muslim country. Definitely, we have its basis. See the top here at show and a better experience. This is exactly the first couple of days in the UAE. And I'd like also to thank the Al-Attiyah Foundation for bringing this pavilion in this difficult time. We need to understand how much the logistics and the job works and how much it is given us a lot of difficulties. And finally, I'd like to thank you for bringing me all the partner and the tasty events also. Concerning, I'd like to bring the word of His Excellency Sultan Jabal in the opening of the book. I think the beauty of the word is that it's for the first time. I didn't hear words about being pessimists or optimists. The guy is very possible. So he was talking if you want us to achieve the 1.5 degree, there are a set of prerequisites. Unfortunately, that does not exist today. And that will require technological advancements, in particular, that are not there. My reading to the words and my reading to this talk is that in 19 through a ball in our field telling us that there is a problem, it's throwing the ball again in the hands of the scientists and telling them take your responsibility because we need technologies that can achieve what we're talking about. The people will be consistent this time in providing the financial aid, assistance. In fact, it's not a problem of finance. The finance is there. The problem is that there is no business case and technology that can absorb the finance. Financial institutions in the European Union, in the US, and in the Gulf. The money is there in each and every financial institution I'm working with. The investments superseded 33 trillion, 23 trillion, yes, US dollar. The global GDP is something like 20 trillion GDP. And ESG finance is expanding with more than 16% annually. This means that by 2030, in fact, all of the finance that exists globally sustainable finance. So the problem is not in the finance. The problem is that the money is there. Financial institutions are willing to put this money. So what we are facing is that there is no technologies that can bring the business case that we can utilize.
Pleasure to come back to you then. I think that resonated there from what you say is that it's possible. It is possible, but in order to reach that 2 degrees Celsius goal, we come back to the mega issue here. It's going to mean a lot of pain in a lot of countries around the world. This is going to be painful to try and reduce. I mean, you have the industrialized world, which is enjoying a good quality of life, but for the rest of the world, what sorts of challenges will they face if we are to achieve 2 degrees Celsius?
Yes, it's not going to be an easy route, giving the net zero target for everyone, because achieving the net zero target, it needs to happen across the board, across the sectors. So, for example, a country that rely on oil and gas, but also have another economic sectors. Applying a net zero policy requires also implementing those policies in different sectors, the oil and gas sector, the agriculture, and also even the financial sector that also take a role. And each sector will require a different set of technologies, a different set of policies and regulations. And also each sector will require raising awareness, skilling, reskilling for the human resources in that sector. And at the same time, we need also a holistic view on how the net zero goal can be achieved. And also, you rightly mentioned some countries are more capable than others. If you look at the financial, investments globally, most of these are concentrated in the developed countries. And a handful, a number of countries, including some developing countries like China and India, are also large economies. So also the disposition of the climate finance is not yet. And then also some countries will face a difficult role on navigating. So these who depends on the coal. The coal plants, like they have a life for 20 years or 15 years. So they need to navigate on also allocating the funds to phase out the coal power plants. It's the same for the other kind of energy, fossil fuel energy resources. So that's also is not easy. Like it's taking time, but I know like some countries, like Indonesia is trying. And also there are some social economic consequences that are also associated with the energy transition or net zero goals. Say, for example, the reform of the subsidies, which is a major social impact in many countries, especially in this part of the world, but not only here, even in the countries that are more advanced, like Singapore, where most recently a survey was implemented and people were asked about their major concerns about the risks associated with the energy transition. Many people say, like, I don't want it to be expensive. Doesn't come in what we wants to benefit. So, so these kind of issues needs to be taken into consideration. So, my idea is it's going to be taken place in stages, but not like.
But the average is the way. But looking at that sort of state, we'll come back to you then. Where do you see the energy in the future coming from through this transition? Countries in this region that you focus on, we're hoping that oil they're taking out, but still there. In reality, I should touch on 20% of the world's coming from fossil fuels. There's an oil there. But where do you see the energy in the future coming from? What
Basically, what we are seeing in the region, and it's like there are countries that will be the last entrants of the world, as long as there is need for oil. And for these countries, they try to work on, already they are low cost, and they're trying to make it low emissions. So this is where you see all the focus that is being that yes, the world still needs oil and gas, and we want to be the ones that are the last providers for them. But we want to make our products clean because we understand the needs of the world about clean energy. So, and this is where their effort is being put. And this is why you see like a country like the UAE will put investment in oil and gas, but at the same time will put investment in technologies like CCUS or even like in new energies like hydrogen. So this is how they see the world. And they see it maybe differently than others who think that if we really want to get our targets, we need to stop producing. And with the stop producing comes a lot of, as Aisha said, a lot of tensions with their societies. Because if you are a society that is based on oil and gas, or a society that has seen the transformation based on oil and gas is not a curse to you. So it's a blessing. But now you see that there is a change that is happening. That's why it requires a lot of communication with society to explain to society the changes that might come and what price is the society ready to pay and what it should gain in return. So these are like very important issues that internally the governments need to work with their societies along the way of thinking for the future and staying relevant. So that's why I do believe that the region is using the oil and gas money to invest in the future energies, being hydrogen, because they want to find the market for that. So if the oil and gas market becomes less and less, so that they have another market that is ready for Europe or for others, and this is why they are really pushing technology is that they are relevant in the future, and they play a role because the standard of living of their people, the development of their people is the first aim to that. But one other thing that we are seeing as well is that, and I'd like to focus here on the role of the MCs. And it is an important part of the story as well in the region and elsewhere as well. Because the national oil companies, these are companies that do play an important role in oil and gas production. They have more than like the production worldwide comes from them. They do have important reserves that are in the hands of NOCs. So if NOCs are not on board of energy transition, you will have difficulties in getting to your pledges and or to the target. So basically, and any country that is involved in this NOC, at least they are serious and they understand it. So all the pledges that NOCs are making on net zero, this is something that we should take into like serious and really push for them to really achieve their targets. Because what we are seeing in studies that we've done, sometimes NOCs are making risky bets. So if they don't believe, or their countries don't believe that the energy transition is going to be fast, they are, like, according to studies, they are going to invest $8 trillion into the oil and gas sectors because they think that the energy transition is not going to be fast. But if it is going to be fast, because we're talking about that plateau of 2030 or 2028 of demand, but we don't exactly know what will happen after the plateau. Is it like a quick decrease, or it will take some time? So in that case, if it takes some time, maybe some of your investments are safe. But if it is like a decline, and like we're talking about like some of the scenarios of Al-Attiyah, so getting 55 million barrels per day, so then 1/4 of the investment that NOCs will be making would be at risk. So that 1/4, that means it's money that is public money. So imagine what NOCs and their governments could do with that money in developing in the sustainable world or developing their societies. So NOCs is something that we should be really looking at and pushing them to really not take risky bets, because that money should be put in something to build a better future.
Saying that people should this decade, they asked people to do something successful on something. If the hours a day come down to hours by this decade, that makes sense. Probably so it's the ability of the out. Energy is still driven by the something that should be potentially a boon for first one is my question, and the second one is more about how countries here adapting to the types of world and climate targets that they have. And you see enough momentum and seriousness.
Thank you so much for the insights you brought for the question also. I think what we want to is a narrative. And then we can see inside the narratives how different parts of the puzzle fits. The reality of the narrative is that for 60 or 70 years, we have been told in the region and hence in the world that growth rates are the major important indicator for countries, and profitability is the most important indicators for corporations. We have been taught this, and we have taught this for our students in the universities. Rates, in fact, the whole world and our region has passed through a golden age of economic growth, and on the profitability level, the number of the corporations around the world has increased dramatically. Who fueled this pattern? It was oil and gas in the heart of this picture. Oil and gas is directly related to a near one-to-one coefficient with GDP growth rates and with population rates. We say greenhouse gas emissions as well. Exactly. And then the homework should be how can we preserve socio-economic development and decouple it from environmental development. This is exactly at the heart of the problem. And this is where we want to bring all the pieces together. We want to bring capacity building, we want to bring finance, we want to bring technology in this. And that's why I believe that the world and each country needs what we can term a low emission development strategy. We have developed one that goes for a country in the region. And simply the low emission development strategies are: you have the right to grow. Set me your growth targets. Set me your socio-economic development plan. And then we identify the factors that these countries grow. What is the definition of the socio-economic development sector? A socio-economic development sector contributes to employment, contributes to foreign direct investments, contributes to GDP, and contributes to GDP growth. After identifying these sectors and putting them into context, then we bring the country and sit with her and ask her, how can we decouple the degradation of those? How can we decouple the growth in these sectors from the degradations of environmental degradation? And here comes the beauty of this narrative fact, is that when you know the sectors that you need to focus on, you will identify and prioritize the technologies and the measures that you will need to undertake. Surprisingly, when we utilized identifying whether greening these sectors will hinder their growth, we discover that greening these sectors will push their growth and will push the overall GDP growth rates of the countries to 1 to 1.5 degrees higher than the business, because it will allow you access to investments and finance that were not accessible. So, where is the bottleneck right now? There is an important piece that we need to consider in the American Pavilion. The whole region does not contribute more than 3 to 4% of the global GHG emissions. This is a fact. Okay? But the GHG emissions per capita in the region is among the highest globally due to the population. So who should be responsible for the GHG emission? Is it the producer? In fact, is it the consumer? We need to put this narrative point here that is very beneficial for the narrative. We have always studied between the past and the future. In the past, the narrative was controlled by Greenwood and France. In the future, the narrative should be controlled by who will be affected. This is where the beauty of transitional justice comes, because unfortunately, those who contributed to what we in nowadays, which are the stock or have the stock the budget, are not those who will be more and accordingly. A very important figures. The UAE has pledged in the opening of the. Do you know that the UAE banks pledged 50 billions and not 100 million until 2030? But again, the problem is not about finance. The problem is about the business case of what to do with this finance. Yeah.
Aisha, I'm just going to stay with what you see because it is an important reason for many of them. The foundation, but also essential to how the world happens. There's a lot of progress this region in particular. I mean, they give you expertise when you look at the subsidy areas. What is on West?
I think the GCC already owns the narrative action. They have been taking action in terms of the adapting to the impact of the climate change, because the region is one of the most vulnerable to the impacts of the climate change, including the rise in the temperature, the exposure to extreme weather events, and also the water scarcity is a major issue here. So we see that the Gulf countries has been able to adapt to those kinds of challenges through the adoption of these cooling technology, the desalination plants for the reduction of the water supplies. And then on the energy transition, also, I think the energy transition has taken momentum in the region, and it's moving more in many fronts. In renewable energy, for example, all the Gulf countries have set targets for renewable energy. For example, Saudi Arabia wants to produce 50% of electricity from renewable by 2030. Also the same for the UAE, and also other targets for Oman and the other Gulf countries. We see also the installed capacity for renewable energy actually has increased from around 100 megawatt in 2011 to around 4,000 megawatt in total today. So there is an increase. And then also all the Gulf countries, or at least Oman, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE, they are now pursuing ambitions on the production of the green hydrogen. We see big plans in NEOM for Saudi Arabia. Iran also wants to produce and export hydrogen from different the UAE also have the same similar plans as well. If the question is whether that continue or not, I think it will continue. Also in the foreign policy, we see the UAE today is hosting COP28. This year also, Riyadh hosted the MENA Climate Week, and last year Dubai hosted the MENA Climate Week. So there is also an interest also to bring all the stakeholders, not only from the government, but also from business and the private sector, and giving them the chance to come and work together. This year, the UAE also wanted to involve the private sector through the opening of the green zone, which is open for everyone. It's free access. You don't need registration to enter the green zone. And then also, what is so critical for COP28 this year is the the global stocktake will take will take place for the first time. In fact, it's the third phase of the global stocktake, the political phase, which is expected to bring political consensus between the parties to enhance their climate action in terms of mitigation, adaptation, as well as finance. And then the countries from now on, they will need also to submit transparency report, biennial transparency report. So that makes the countries accountable and then responsible also, not only putting forward ambitions, but implementing it.
There again, the Al-Attiyah Foundation, it was a roundtable looking at particular concepts and utilizations. Well, you energy sources and new ideas, yet the uptake hasn't really got there. We deal with this now, back to the central question of energy solutions connects in the world. We do want to be able to answer
that are now for years and years they become cheap and there is a market for it. Because one of the problems with the hydrogen is that we're seeing that there's the market and looking for the market. So when you don't have a market, it becomes difficult, right, really to scale it up and make it as something. It is becoming like hydrogen is becoming part of the package of what to do to really get to our destination. So that's why what we see is like there's a lot being put now in making it marketable and finding the markets for it and the use for it. And definitely for our region in the MENA, we're seeing that Europe is the destination because one of the issues that you have is transportation. Again, like it's transportation. If you're far from your market, then it's more expensive. Then how are you going to benefit? So the same like the classical challenges of any product. So basically, what we are seeing on that, and this is an important point again on the just transition that we talked about. So hydrogen is really picking up in Europe, especially by Germany, seeing it like very important for their decarbonization and for their targets. So basically, what the EU and Germany are doing, going to places where they think that they can sign MOUs and deals with countries to really be the first comers and then get these deals and then get guarantee their at least what they need. So what we are seeing, like we've seen many strategies for hydrogen in the region, like every country, even my country, Lebanon, that is like really bankrupt, that has really great, like serious issues on electricity and that can provide for its people, it has got the funding from the EU to do a hydrogen study. So to that point that the EU is really pushing for that. What is happening is like locally, especially in places like in Tunisia, for instance, resourceful country, but that relies on imports, and then it is being exported by the Europeans about hydrogen, etc., and these things to export. So people are questioning these projects. Are these projects going to be beneficial for us as communities, or we will end up like we pool energy, but then all these resources will be produced in our country and then sold to them, to the and exported to them, and what is it that you have to get? So just energy transition is very important for the region, especially to places like we are seeing difficulties. And then it needs to work. Again, it is the responsibility of the EU to be really clear on what is its ambition and its goals about these projects with the global south and with the region. And it is important for the region as well and the countries in the region to really make it clear to their people what's the ambition and be transparent about that. And we go to the point of financing, like my last point here, because in the series of webinars that we've done at NRGI along these 6 months in Arabic to make sure that the audience in the region is getting the message. We discussed issues of climate change. And in that, it was that we do have a lot of opportunities, but the region is not getting as much as it should get. And we then definitely Morocco, Egypt are the highest that are attracting investment, the rest last. And the issue is like with the capacity of the countries to really have a vision of what they want to do, and the capacity is even like to absorb this money and to be able to work on the projects. And that's important for the countries to really build their capacities institutionally and have vision of what. It's not just like whatever project something needs and we just because I need the foreign investment. It's not about us, it's not. So still we see in some countries see this green climate financing as the direct finance and for the dollars only without really believing in sustainability and a cleaner future. So that's important for countries in our region as well to build the case for the climate, for the climate. And of course, we all talked about that the need as well from the institute, like the financial institutions, to have healthy conditions so that we know that that's okay.
So color what's happening inside the Expo 2020 right here in Dubai. It takes a long to get from one place to the other place in the green zone, blue zone next to each other. And it has been quite warm the past few days. But just behind us over there, there's a big center. As we see, there were lots of rich people in there, mostly men, it can be said. The next to Ray Dalio, there's a very big Gates, Microsoft founder. They're talking about how the business world can step up. That's one of the key focus this time around. I just wanted to come to your expertise in finance, in our, if I may ask it. We're saying the money is there, saying that the banks are interested, investors are interested, and we think we took an early submission of EFG based on a lot of backlash, lots of money in some parts of the United States, and it seems to be really what's now. Is that the only way to tackle this when it comes to green financing to minimize?
Let me start by the question from the end and take it backwards. My perspective is that with the current trends going on, we have sustainable finance and we have traditional finance. By 2030, sustainable finance will be the finance, and finance will be like unsustainable. Because with the current trajectory, it's very clear that unsustainable finance will be prohibited. This is something that all financial institutions need to take it backwards back. And I'm trying to mix all what has been said here in sometimes we need one smart solution that debugs. The most important thing to be done, and it will debug every other thing, is internalizing experiments. The problem is that those who pay for the thing paying for the price of the external social costs that they deliver to the society. And in this respect, we have always been raised in two things, carrots and sticks, and this is how we vote. For the sticks, I think it's a time for a global carbon tax. And the global carbon tax already has started this October by the European Union announcing the carbon border adjustment mechanism. And they will start by six heavily carbon intensive sectors. No imports from the rest of the world except with a benchmark on carbon content. the first two countries that will be impacted in the Middle East from this CBAM is Egypt and the UAE. Egypt comes number one and UAE number two. In the UAE is aluminium and in Egypt is fertilizers. What I want to say here is, penalization is something that is very important. But sometimes penalization without giving the person in front of you the right tool to change will turn into penalization. So he will resist to the end. I believe also in the terms of incentivization. That, for example, in the case of the CBAM, I need the funds that will be collected as a tax to be redirected to operations. This, as much as it may, as much as it incentives. These are inputs that when you change, it will lead to this from a financial damage. But there is a very important dimension, which I'm afraid of more than any other man. One of my students now is the CEO of a very big company, and he told me a whole term told us about what technology or cloud or smoking. And it simply says in the saying if and you have that,
collaboration to materialize into reality. As a researcher, also, I think how the countries can, speed up the process is really to work on regional collaboration and cooperation, and be targeted on where they will, on how they can achieve their own specific targets. On, for example, the carbon offset, you need to know like where I can invest, which are the regions that are most like have quality of carbon credits, not only carbon. And that for that specific reason, for example, Southeast Asia is one of the rich regions in terms of the biodiversity and forests. So it is a good area for investing in reforestation in there. And also in terms like if we speak about the MENA countries and the Gulf regions, there are a lot of areas also for regional cooperation. Lori mentioned, for example, Iraq is a resource rich, but it's not really like well developed. So there are opportunities for Gulf countries to co-invest in Iraq because one area that or challenging climate area is the food security. So Iraq and Iran actually provide the land for the agriculture because they have the good weather for the agriculture and they can produce different kinds of crops. So there are opportunities for co-investment in there. And this could happen also for other sectors like the renewable energy. Now, some countries have high renewable energy potential, and then they can greater land also for the installed capacity. And maybe the local demand is not as high. So there are opportunities also to trade the clean energy as well. And that could happen for the proximity reasons at regional level or from region to region. So, for example, the Gulf countries in a way are close to North Africa, so and also to Iraq and then to Europe. So I think we should be more of a targeted in terms of the collaboration, and we can do it on regional, bilateral.
They are, yeah. So we've got a few minutes left then, Rory. I'll give the final remarks to you. If that one doesn't work, it's work. So, so the issues raised by Aisha there. One thing about this, looking at the problems that the world is facing, one thing about it is it doesn't discriminate when active effects of having the rich mansion or not, everything may be swept away by the effects of this. What would be the message to the people here, the people around the world, why this is such an important issue anyway? Parts of life, listen to what the scientists say.
So I want to pick up on what Aisha said because this is something very dear to my heart. It's that collaboration and cooperation within the region. And the region has been divided for so long, and I don't think that we can handle more division and more political fiction in the region. So that is very important, like at least to use this climate change challenges. As you said, we see no border in climate impact, to work together on that and like try and maybe not to put aside our differences or political friction because from what we're seeing today, we cannot just avoid conflicts that they exist in the region and pretend that they don't exist and work as business as usual. No, face the problems, but maybe climate change could be the key to unlock and to fix the problems in the region and really work towards a region that is one. And yes, I do believe that maybe we are the next EU as a region, as a one region. At least we speak the same language, all of us, right? So and become one. So that's my message to the region. Enough with politics and more on the well-being of the whole citizens of the region.
Thank you. And obviously, civil society. I just want to say thank you to my colleague for the guest, Lori and Tayan. Thank you, Michelle, absolutely. And after that, thank you very much. The next session is today. And series the coming days of let's get here. So see you soon. Thank you.